So, let's talk about prayer. It's something we've all heard of, maybe even tried. But what if there's a way to approach it that's more effective? Today, we're going to break down a powerful framework for prayer that's been around for centuries. Okay, let's get right into it.
Have you ever felt like your prayers just aren't getting through? Like they're hitting a wall? Like there's some secret password you're supposed to know, some magic phrase, and you just haven't figured it out yet? In the classic story of Ali Baba, "Open Sesame" was the only phrase that would open the cave of treasures. Anything else was just words. Now, prayer isn't magic, but Jesus did teach that there is a key, a very specific approach that opens the door to a real, authentic conversation with God.
So here's our roadmap. We'll start with the foundation, which is all about who we're talking to. Then we'll get into the content, what to actually pray for. After that, we'll look at the posture of our own hearts, how God answers prayer, and finally, what the real gift of prayer actually is.
All right, first things first. Before you ask for a single thing, you have to establish who you're talking to. And this first step, well, it changes absolutely everything.
When Jesus' disciples asked him, "Hey, teach us how to pray," the very first word he gave them was Father. Think about that. Not Almighty Creator or distant ruler of the cosmos. Father. It's not just a title, it's a relationship. It immediately tells us we're not approaching some abstract force, but a loving parent.
But hold on a second. That brings up a huge question, doesn't it? What gives any of us the right to be so informal, so familiar with the creator of everything? This isn't something we can just assume.
Well, the truth is, in our original state, we didn't have that right. Our own choices, our sin, had created this massive gap between us and God. We were actually considered his enemies. But then, God did something incredible. He sent Jesus, and Jesus' death on the cross paid the price for all that sin. That single act of forgiveness didn't just wipe the slate clean. It did something even more amazing. It opened the door for us to be adopted into his family.
And that is the absolute key. We get to call God Father not because we're so great, but because of his great love for us. He chose to call us his children. We've been invited into the family.
And what kind of parent is he? Well, he's the perfect parent. Unlike our human parents, he's never too busy, never asleep at the switch. He's always listening. And he has both the strength and provision of a father and the deep, nurturing compassion of a mother. In fact, get this, the original Hebrew word for God's compassion actually comes from the word for womb. How amazing is that? It's a deep, life-giving, protective love.
Okay, so we've established our relationship. We can come to God as our Father. So what do we actually talk about? Jesus gives us a really clear three-part guide.
He breaks it down into three main requests. First, that God's name would be honored. Second, that his kingdom would come. And third, for our daily needs. And you have to notice the order here. It's totally intentional. God's reputation and his plans come before our personal needs. It's God first, then us.
So what does it mean to hallow God's name? That sounds a little old-fashioned, right? Well, think of it this way. If your dad's a police officer, you probably shouldn't be out robbing banks. It reflects badly on him. Praying this is asking God to help our lives reflect his good character. We're asking for his help to live in a way that shows the world how good and loving he truly is.
And when we get to the part about our daily bread, notice that word, our. It's not give me my daily bread. This prayer isn't a wish list for our own selfish wants or personal ambitions. It's a humble, shared request for what we need, the whole community. It pulls us away from greed and reminds us that we're all in this together.
Okay, so we know who we're talking to and what to talk about. But now we have to look inward, because the posture of our own heart, well, it's absolutely critical.
A huge part of this prayer is the line, "Forgive us as we forgive others." See how they're connected? Our willingness to forgive other people is directly tied to understanding how much we've been forgiven first. But to really get that, you have to ask yourself, just how great was God's forgiveness?
Let's be real. As human beings, we find it incredibly hard to forgive. Someone cuts us off in traffic, says something mean, and we can hold on to that anger for days, weeks, even years. We struggle to forgive our equals for relatively small things.
Now compare our little struggles to forgive with this. The creator of the entire universe became human, one of his own creations, and then he forgave his creation while they were literally in the process of killing him. Think about the scale of that forgiveness.
It's almost unimaginable. And that is the exact same forgiveness that he offers to us.
The second part of our posture is just admitting that we're in a spiritual battle every single day. Prayer is our defense. We're asking God to protect us from temptation, not just big dramatic stuff, but the daily things. Like losing your temper, saying harsh words, or giving in to negativity.
So we've covered the who, the what, and the posture. But what about the other side of the conversation? How does God actually answer our prayers? It's a massive question, and the thing is, he always answers, just maybe not in the ways we expect.
It really boils down to 3 possible answers. Sometimes it's a yes. The thing we're asking for lines up perfectly with his will and his timing. Sometimes the answer is wait. The request is good, but the timing just isn't right yet. And then there's no. And that's the tough one, right? But a no from God isn't a rejection. It's protection. It's a loving Father saying, I see the bigger picture, and this isn't what's best for you, even if you can't see it right now.
And that brings us to our last, and honestly, the most important point of all. After everything we've talked about, what's the real point? Is the goal of prayer just to get stuff from God? No, not even close.
Jesus told this great story about a guy who pounds on his friend's door at midnight, begging for bread for a guest. At first, the friend says no, but the guy just keeps knocking. Eventually, the friend gets up, totally annoyed, and gives him the bread just to get rid of him. Jesus' point was genius. If a grumpy, reluctant friend will give you what you need because you're persistent, how much more will a loving, perfect father be eager to give good gifts to his children when they ask?
And here it is. This is the real treasure. The greatest gift of prayer isn't what you get, it's who you get. The best thing God can possibly give you isn't a new job or better health. The best gift he gives is himself. He gives us his own presence, the Holy Spirit, to live inside us, guide us, and even help us pray when we don't know what to say. The goal isn't getting things from God, it's getting God. So, this whole framework, it's a key that unlocks a relationship with your Father. And the only question left is, now that you have the key, what conversation are you going to start with your Father today? If this explainer was helpful for you, please subscribe, like, and comment. It's a great encouragement for making the next video.